Alright, Mr. Miyagi-style. Hey guys, Happy New Year. Happy 2024. Today's segment, the New Year, I'm going to bring a couple of different things. I'm going to be doing a segment later on, probably this week, on what I use the camera for. I'm going to show you different types of mounts and the things that I mount on for what I use. So I'm going to do this in a kind of first-person view. This is to discuss and explain a little bit about, you've been hearing this a lot, is a lot of these users saying 8-bit, 10-bit, you know, this camera is no good because it doesn't have 10-bit or DLog. You're going to hear these terms and a lot of people don't understand what these mean. I'm going to explain it in the most layman term that I can for you guys. What they mean by all this 10-bit, 8-bit stuff and color grading and that kind of thing. I come from a background where I worked in a dark room. I started out with 35mm film. I actually did color grading with negative slides. So this is dating back a few decades. So this all everything is digital now, which is amazing. You know, to see that kind of from film to digital is such a huge advance technology. Excuse me, in technology, and I love it. I've been doing it for decades now. My background is design. I was in mechanical drafting, architectural drafting. I actually went to school for interior design. I started my own business as a graphic designer for what, the better part of 3 decades almost. I did portrait studio. I did photography. I'm a hobby photographer, so I do have a little experience with all this. And a lot of the skills that you see here for color grading and post editing, a lot of it's self-taught and going through learning from other people. And I'm going to be honest with you, with this camera, there's a couple things that you need to know with this camera. The reason Insta360 designed this camera was to make it very easy for the majority of the users. You hear people who talk about color grading and 10-bit. These are your kind of your wannabe colorists who actually play with colors a little bit and then they spill out and they think they're experts. A lot of them are like that. Yes, granted, there are ones that are legit, ones that are using it professional, but there's a lot of wannabes out there who think they play with the software a little bit, they can color grade, they think they're professionals, and they can recommend this camera to other people, or don't recommend this camera to other people. My job is to bring that out on the table and say, well, okay, that's fine, but are you going to be able to do this? And I'll explain in detail here on the screen what I mean in terms of color grading and 10-bit. So a little explanation about 10-bit and 8-bit. So 8-bit and 10-bit color is strictly color. Okay, it has nothing to do with resolution. Okay, resolution is lens, it's optical lens, so it's a glass that's in your camera. Okay, and where 8-bit, 10-bit comes in is color. So 8-bit is 16.7 million colors. Okay, we've been using 8-bit for years and years and years and years, and it's been fine. Then they came out with 10-bit. Okay, so 10-bit is actually over 1 billion colors. Sorry, my screensaver just went off here. Now, that said, yeah, there's much more colors, much more gradients, but the human eye cannot see more than 1 million colors. So between 16 million and 1 billion, we really can't see the difference in the color. We can see a few things different: the gradients, the vibrance, okay, and the dynamic range. Okay, those are noticeable areas, especially with action cams like this with the smaller lenses. And this is where this comes in. Okay, now that said, okay, the Ace Pro doesn't have 10-bit, it only has 8-bit. But if you look at all the reviews, and I'll post one, well, I'll post one here of a guy who just recently put out a review. He's actually German. And he's actually heavy in, you'll see on the screen here, he's heavy into photography. He does a lot of tech talk. He does a lot of hardware reviews, anywhere from point and shoot all the way up to high-end SLRs, digital SLRs, and mirrorless. And he explains in detail about the Ace Pro. And he puts it up, the funny thing is, in this video, you'll see this guy here, he puts it up against a camera, the Sony 6700. I have this is shot by a 6300. So if you're not familiar with the alpha range cameras, they're actually mirrorless DSLRs. They're the ones that you can actually interchange lenses. These cameras start at about $1,200. Okay, the $6,700 model is actually quite expensive. And he later on, watch the video, it's worth it. I'm not gonna explain the whole video. I'll let you watch the video. And he really gets into the hardware aspects of the Ace Pro. Okay, and he'll actually tell you that this camera, it's one of its kind. It's actually going to set a new precedence for action cameras, okay, because of the hardware it's using inside. The camera is using a Bayer quad sensor. This is the only sensor it's used in this camera. And he later goes on saying that this particular sensor has actually been around for a while. Sony has had their hand on it, and Sony was actually going to put it in their A7R series. The A7 series in Sony is their highest end professional mirrorless DSLR camera category. Okay, you're talking about a camera that costs base cost is about $3,000 to $5,000. So, and Sony decided not to. I think they're going to put this particular sensor that's an Ace Pro now. They're going to put it in their next series of the A7 camera coming out. And he goes through really details of what this Bayer sensor does, this quad sensor does, and how it actually achieves the low light shooting, the denoising, the AI feature. A lot of people misunderstand that the AI is not just software in this camera. The AI is actually hardware. It's a combination of software and hardware that gives you this kind of output. And we're seeing more and more professionals, cinematographers, video photographers, professionals that are looking at this camera and saying, wow, this is incredible. The stuff, the hardware that's packed in this camera it's just out of this world. It's so far ahead of the game than the other competition. So watch the video, it's well worth it. He goes into quite a bit of details in terms of what this sensor is in the Ace Pro. So it's worth watching. I don't want to make this too long. I'm going to go through very quickly. So the people who are talking about 10-bit, 8-bit, okay, the big difference between the two is the colors, okay? Now, where are we going to see this with our eyes in terms of an action camera footage, okay? You're going to see in three aspects of the camera, okay? First is color range, vibrance, okay? Second is dynamic range, which is the kind of the dark areas, you know, shaded areas, dynamic range. So it pulls out the contrast. The third is probably the most problematic between 8-bit and 10-bit is what they call banding. Okay, banding is what you see when if you ever have old cameras and you take videos or pictures of the sky, especially, or solid colors. You're gonna see, especially the sky, you'll see more in the sky because of the gradient of the sky. Okay, you'll see the borders of the gradient. So it's almost like they're almost like stripes, and they're different gradients of color. That's called banding, and that's been problematic with action cameras since day one. And that's where 10-bit comes in, because 10-bit takes out a lot of that banding, if not most of that banding, in your footage. Now, that said, why is everybody chirping about 10-bit? Okay, it's because of these things. Now, if you look at the footage, I've had this camera for 3 weeks and I've been doing a lot of testing, especially in those areas, dynamic range and vibrance and also banding. Okay, if you look at my earlier video that I did, I think one of the third videos that I did, where I'm walking a dog outside, it was really sunny, and I capture a lot of this behind me, the sky. Look at the sky. Okay, this was untouched. This was coming straight out of the camera, and there's barely, if you can even see any banding in the sky. You would have to pixel peep to see any banding, and most people don't do that. Okay, only the wannabe colorists, they'll go, oh look, there's banding there. They've got it zoomed in 300 times, right? Which is the most ridiculous thing ever. For the average user, we're not even going to see it. You know, it doesn't really matter. If you're a professional, absolutely, and that matters to you, yes. But we're seeing more and more professionals that are giving great reviews of this particular camera. Now, that said, I actually went in and I looked at the banding of this camera, and there's hardly any banding, if any at all. And I've done some sky shots with this and solid areas. Um, and this is where that Bayer quad sensor comes in. Okay, this AI chip is actually taken out and fixing that banding like it's doing with the low light shooting. So how low light shooting works with this camera is actually quite amazing what they're doing with this. The 5 nanometer AI chip and the Bayer sensor, it's actually working together and denoising, because the worst part about low light shooting is the noise. Okay, you see that it's horrible in the GoPro, and you can see it in the DJI Action 4. So what Ace Pro does is it has the same sensor, the large sensor as the DJI, but it actually takes all that noise and the 5 nanometer chip and the Bayer quad sensor actually denoises in real time and then records it onto your memory card. That's why you don't see that when you're recording. It's in real time. That is phenomenal, and this guy talks about that, how it does it, which is really neat. So I'm going to guess initially it's doing the same thing for banding on the sky, because I don't see any banding in my sky. For an 8-bit camera, that's incredible. And you can try it. Just shoot the sky and see if you're seeing any banding. You may, if you pixel peek, if you blow it up, yeah, you may see some, but not as bad as your standard 8-bit cameras. And that's where it sets its difference. Now, vibrance is the other thing. I find the Ace Pro almost too vibrant. You can drop it into the different modes, the flat mode, if you don't want that. I think yes, it does oversaturate a little bit, but the other cameras, if you look at DJI, I think it's too undersaturated with DJIs, and I think GoPro has too much of a yellow tinge to their videos. I've noticed that with GoPros, they consistently have a yellow tinge. Okay, oops, sorry. Anyways, that said, the vibrance, that can be done in post, but I like the vibrance of the Ace Pro. Now, some people don't, right? It depends. Everyone has different eyes for different colors, right? I prefer that vibrance rather than going back and trying to fix it post-production. And I'll get to that in a second. And the other thing is to the dynamic range. If you look at all the videos that's out right now, that other reviewers are doing, and just look at the dynamic range compared to the GoPro and compared to the DJI. The dynamic range on the Ace Pro is actually really good. It's actually better in a lot of areas than the GoPro and the DJI. Like, don't believe me, go and look at the comparison. Look at the dynamic range, especially in the tree area, darker areas where there's light on top. You're gonna see a huge difference. And every time, most times that I've seen it, the Ace Pro beats the GoPro and the DJI in dynamic range. So that said, those are the three biggest problems of any action camera in an 8-bit world, okay? And I think Ace Pro has actually managed to, with their technology, with the 5 nanometer, the Bayer quad sensor, I think they've managed to somehow taken care of all those three problems. Keeping it an 8-bit camera, which is phenomenal. Now, why did they do that? Well, 8-bit and 10-bit, because you have so much colors, what does that mean? That means much bigger file size on an 8-bit file. So maybe that's their reasoning, to keep that file size down and still have a good video out of the camera without post-processing, okay? We never know. We may see a 10-bit come out for the Ace Pro. Who knows, right? But I'm not holding my breath on it. I love the footage coming out of the camera as is, and that's important for most of us. The topic of my segment here is color grading. You know, we're hearing so many of these wannabes, the people who download they Jack Sparrow their software, play around with it, do a couple color thing, and they call themselves colorists. Not all of us can do this. I can do it, and I'll show you how to do it. And if you look at it, you're probably going to say, wow, there's no way I'm going to have the time or the skills or the hardware to do this, right? You do need three things to colorize or to color grade your video, especially video. Stills, it's not a big deal. There's lots of software that can do colorizing stills in 3 seconds. Your phone can do that, right? Video is a different story, especially when you're dealing with 4K. 8K is even worse. I can't even do 8K properly on this. It's so slow. And I have a relative, I just got this machine a week ago. And it's a gaming machine. So I'm going to show you a couple things what I do. If you want to do post-processing, this is what you're going to have to do post-processing and do color grading, okay? Or do any effects afterwards. I keep hearing people saying that, oh, well, the Ace Pros, like, I can make my DJI look good through color grading or post-process. I can make my GoPro look like that too. I keep hearing this with all the reviews. Well, wait, why do we need to do that? Why don't we just have a good footage coming out of the camera without having to do post-processing? There's time, there's money, and there's skill involved, okay? To do any color grading professionally, or to do it well and to do it properly, you need 3 things. You need skills and knowledge. You need software, which you have to pay, which aren't cheap. And then you need hardware, which again is not cheap. So the average person, do you think they're going to have these 3 things so they can color grade their photos to look better? Not really. They just want something out of the camera. And this is the point of this camera, right? I'm tired of hearing these wannabes saying, oh no, there's no temp, it's useless, it's garbage. You know, it looks fake. It doesn't look fake. If anybody's fake, it's those people, right? So I'm going to show you. So for me to properly color grade something, especially video, I use DaVinci because it's probably the easiest to use, and it's not that the interface is not as distracting. This is DaVinci Resolve. It's actually really good software. It's not super expensive, but it's still an investment that you have to put in. The hardware, again, that's the most expensive part, right? So I brought in a clip where I did a time shift with my vehicle. So I want to do a couple things, right? For example, you saw the video how I did the blurring. You can do it in the actual camera itself through the Insta360 Studio app, but I'm going to show you how to do it manually. So we had one of the reviewers, and you guys know who it is. He had this on his review of the Ace Pro. He goes, yeah, you could do this. That's pretty cool. But you know what? With DaVinci, I can do the same thing. Well, why? You can do it on the camera, on the app. It takes you 5 minutes. DaVinci, I'll show you how long it takes for you and what you need to do to do in DaVinci, right? Do you think everybody's going to be able to do this? Like the average user? The majority of users who buy these cameras don't have this kind of skill, don't have the software and hardware, right? So for me to do that same blur, so I have to actually import the DaVinci in, or the video in. So this is how it looks. It's on time shift, right? I'll stop it and reverse, right? I can go into full screen and I can go forward and go backward and stop, right? Go full screen again. So for me to do this, I have to go into here. So now it splits into 2 screens, okay? So this is my timeline of my video. I've got this on my Ace Pro, so hopefully I'll merge the 2 videos together. So this is the timeline, and if I go to here, this gives me a little bit more settings. I can do tools like effects, ambient light, spotlight, that kind of thing. But I want to go into more effects. So for me to go into more effects, oh, here it is, over there. So I split it into 2 screens. So you'll see my effects panel over here, okay? And I can go into, you have to add in the effects. There's a bunch of effects that comes with DaVinci. And then the one I use it's a Resolve effect. So it's a zoom blur. So you'll see when I mouse over the zoom blur over here, you'll see the sample that's coming up on here. Hopefully you can see this. So I want to create that effect. So what I do is initially I can drag this into my timeline into this effect. Now I want to change it because the whole screen is on a zoom blur. And I don't want that. I want the side zoom. I want the center clear. So for me to do that, I have to go in here. Okay. I want to do zoom out. So I'm going to do quite a bit of blur. And I'm going to do center exclusion. So if I move my slider, you'll see the center start to focus. Okay. So there, I've done the initial work to do the zoom blur, or the motion, what's it, motion ND, I think it's called on Insta360. If you do it on your app, it literally takes about 5 to 10 minutes to do. and then you can export it out, and then you can just send it social media right on your phone. You don't even need a computer. Okay, for you to do this manually, let's say GoPro or DJI, this is what you would have to do. Okay, you would need the software, similar software. You would need the time. You need the knowledge. You need to know your way around, right? Look at the interface here. This is DaVinci. Look at how crazy this interface looks. Like if I want to do color grading, so this is just doing effects, motion effects. Here's your color grade screen, right? So here this is how it's laid out. I don't know if you can see it well. So I have two sides here. My histogram is here, color histogram, okay, and then my gradient controls are here. So I can adjust exposure, gamma, gain, offset. I can switch it to HDR. I can switch it to green output, color output, and so on and so forth. Do you know how much this time takes to do this? I'm gonna go into full screen here. So here's my sample here. This is the zoom with the blur, right? And center is clear, right? I'm gonna stop it, go back. So this is your color grading here. Now, here's the interesting thing. You hear the words DLog, okay? DLog is basically a profile that you set in the camera, so your camera will shoot in that color profile. Okay, that's usually what that means, right? So the nice thing about DLog is you can do it live. You can shoot that profile right then and there. You cannot do that with the Ace Pro because it doesn't have DLog, right? Now you can do it after if you want to, but there's really no need to, because if you look at the camera itself, if you swipe from the right and go and look at the what is it called, the color modes, okay, there's actually 13 of them, and one of them will actually match most of the needs that you require for different color profiles. Okay, you can get more. Like on DaVinci, they're called LUTs. Okay, it stands for lookup table. LUTs is very much like DLog, except LUTs is after post, whereas DLog is live. Okay, that's the only difference. So let's say if I look at I have a million of these, like DLog, and it gives you samples, and it'll show you on the left-hand side what it looks like when you mouse over. So let's say I want to drop a bright with contrasty, you'll see a difference. If I go off, it was kind of rainy and depressing that day. So if I go to the HDR 1000, look at how bright it looks, and it brings out that vibrant. So I'm gonna click on this one, okay, and I'm just gonna see, it'll actually automatically activate. I'm just gonna drag it to my my little project icon there, so it automatically incorporates this. So now I've added two things to my video. First thing, I've added the motion and view, which you can actually do in the Ace Pro Insta360 app. And then I've added a DLog, or what we call LUTs here, okay? So I've added a LUTs profile, color profile onto my screen. So now we're gonna take a look at this, and see, now notice how contrasty that is, how bright it is, and it's so vibrant. So I changed from a dull day to a more vibrant. So I've got literally thousands of them that I can change it to if I want to do that post-pro. But you don't really need to do that. It's more special effects than anything, right? The profiles, the color profiles that come with the camera, in camera, actually works really well. There's underwater ones, there's mountain ones, ski ones, there's tons of them. There's flat profile, there's standard, which is more vibrant. So play around with those. There's actually a video way back somebody did. They actually went through all the color profiles, and they actually look pretty cool. So this is just an example of what I did. So for me to do this, it took me what, 10, 15 minutes to do post, and I've been doing this for years. Could you picture somebody who have no experience in this software, who doesn't have the hardware to figure this out? You have to install these LUTs. They don't come with, there's some that come with it. But for you to, I have hundreds of these or thousands of these, because I can download them, and you have to install them manually into DaVinci to make them work, right? So, so this took 15 minutes for me just to do this, which you can do in camera with the Ace Pro, right? And then I'm going to go, then I have to view this, test it, and now I have to compile it, export it. So now you need to know how to export it. For me to export, I just go down here. Okay, so this is my video here. Oh, shit. All right, I'm gonna let my camera, my Sony, just overheated again. So I'm shooting with my Ace Pro now. It's going to take over. So right now I've got this and it's in export mode. I don't know if you can see this really well. I hope you can. I'm going to move my hand so it's out of the way. So you see the video running in a sample, and I've put in the blur on the side. I've done the clear. I put the LUTs in for the kind of more vibrant, contrasty look. So I'm just going to stop this. So this is my timeline down here. I have audio as well. So here's what you need to know as well. So you need to know what kind of format you're exporting, what compression, what size, render settings, that kind of thing. So you need to know all that as well. So for the people who say, oh yeah, you can't do post-processing. So you're expecting the average user to do all this after they shoot a video. And why? To make it better. So now the people who are DJI fans or GoPro fans, okay, they're seeing samples of the two, and what comes out of them is hilarious, because they're saying that, well, it has 10-bit. I can make mine GoPro or my DJ look just as good as the Ace Pro or the same by doing all this. So think about that for about 10 seconds. Okay. I can make it look better post-processing or look the same as the GoPro or as the Ace Pro. Okay. I'm not going to go further into that. So just think about that statement for a second. So anyways, I'm exporting this. Now I have to send it to a render project, and then I have to render it. So for me to do this, I have to select compression. So I usually use H265. I have a name in. Let's name it test. Let's name it Mr. Miyagi. Miyagi! All right. And I have to find a location, which is my disk 1 always. And it's going to go in here. So you'll see on the top left-hand corner, if you can see from the camera, I have to select format. So it's going to go into MP4. Okay, you can do MKV, you can do MG2, you can do JPEG, or you can do QuickTime, which is MOV, right? So I'm going to do MP4, and I'm going to do H265, okay? And then you got to pick your size. So this is in 4K. So normally you would do either, well, it actually sets the size already. You can actually upscale it to 8K if you want to, but I can't view it anyways. So you want to do 3840 by 2160 Ultra HD, which is 4K. The rest is pretty standard frame rate at 30 frames per second. This stuff is pretty default. You can change the variable bit rates to make it a little bit better quality, that kind. But then your file size gets bigger, it takes longer to compile, right? I usually use a standard, and it seems to work just fine. So once you set that in, I have to add it to render queue. So here's my queue on the top right here, right? So now I got to render it. Now I got to wait for it to render. So this is a short clip, so it's counting down. I have a pretty fast computer, so it's not gonna take too long. It's almost done. Bloody hell! Oh, my Sony's driving me nuts. Oh, such a good camera too, but I don't know why it's overheating so much. This is 4K. I should probably start shooting at 1080p. I think it should be fine. Okay, so it's done rendering. So I'm done. So this is done with. DaVinci's put away. That's the guy I was talking about. Now let's go look at the file here. On the right-hand side, I'm going to go in, I'm looking at the file. So Mr. Miyagi, right? So here it is. So this is the finished result. So look at what I had to go through to get this, which you can do with the Ace Pro on your phone within about 10 to 15 minutes. And you don't really need any knowledge. You just pick and choose what you want and then export. Okay. Unless you're using this as you're shooting a movie or James Bond movie or whatever, yeah, I could see where you would have to go into this and do a little bit more tweaking here and there. But we're not, most people who use this are not shooting a movie, right? Even guys like this, you know, there's a couple of other ones. There's a special effects guy. There's a cinematographer who actually are using the Ace Pro. And they're saying this camera is incredible. For what comes out of the camera, it's actually quite incredible. So I'm sorry, but I'm going to trust these guys who are professionals than these colorist wannabes who sit in their basement and just gobbledygook stuff out of their mouth and say, oh no, it's a great, it's not, you know, it's not 10-bit, so it's a crappy camera. You know, unless they have the camera and they actually use it, they really don't know. And a lot of these people who don't have cameras are saying that this is not a good camera. It doesn't even make sense. right? They're just speculating. And then you got these guys who have used the camera, who are professionals, who are actually giving a good review and going into the more detailed explanation of the tech in this camera. So, anyways, that's that. Now, that's the video part. So if you guys want to do stills, I know this is getting a little long, but there's quite a bit for me to cover. And I'll chapterize this as well, so you can always skip it. The other thing too, so the stills on this is really good. So this thing shoots at 48 megapixel stills. It has a 48 megapixel sensor. It uses the 8K sensor for the to assist in their stills as well. It also shoots 12 megapixel HDR. So I actually shot some 48 megapixels pictures, and it's actually really good. Surprisingly enough, I'm actually quite impressed with the photos from this thing. So let's say if you have a photo and you want to do some, color grading, or it's not vibrant enough, or it's a little flat, that kind of thing. You can do that on your phone. There's a million apps for your phone. Some are free that you can actually do very easy color grading, stills, doing some highlights, exposure, contrast, that kind of stuff, right? For the computer, there's tons. I use Luminar Neo. This is one of the best. So this is just a screen cap I took from that video that we were just doing, and like look at the stuff I can do with this thing. The enhanced feature on this is wild. One slider. Look at my picture as I'm sliding it over. Look at what it does to the picture. It literally enhances the picture in every area. Look at the sky. Right? It even has a sky enhancer. I can actually enhance, look at this. I can enhance the sky. 2 sliders. I can do this. Okay. So for stills, it's much, much, much easier, right? You can actually get this kind of options and software you can download for your phone. So I think Insta360 has some of those tools as well to do this kind of stuff. But yeah, these pictures are actually quite phenomenal. The quality of the stills out of this camera is actually really, it's the best I've seen in any action camera. So for you to do color correction or color grading on stills, it's a lot easier. Video is a different story. You do need the knowledge, you do need the software, and you do need the hardware. Stills, not so often. Don't forget that videos is just a bunch of stills put together, right? So if you have one still, that's fine. This could be 3 megabytes still, or 5 megabytes still. But when you have a 4K video, that's literally thousands and thousands and thousands of frames. And that's why your 4K videos are so big. Now picture that that's 8-bit. Most of my recorded videos out of the camera Ace Pro in 8-bit 4K 30 frames HDR, they average about 6 gig, right? Can you picture that in a 10-bit environment? That size would probably double or close to doubling, right? So now you need a bigger memory card. And they don't tell you also this is that 10-bit, because of the color that's in that file, it's much more memory intensive. So for me to pull an 8-bit 4K 30 or 60 frame, it's actually quite sluggish. This is a gaming computer I just bought like last week. And picture a 10-bit file of the same length. Like your computer would be chugging to try and color grade that file. It's just that much more intensive. The file size is much bigger. Okay, so keep that in mind. I hope this helps, guys, to explain the whole 10-bit, 8-bit thing. I'm going to do a little bit more research and a little bit more testing with this. I'm really interested in this Bayer quad sensor. This gentleman says that he's never seen anything like this. And he said that this camera has opened up a whole new era of tech for small format cameras like action cameras. So this is the beginning of something we're going to see much better. Now, I bet you any money companies like GoPro and DJI will jump on this as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing this sensor in those cameras in the near future. Okay, now that this has happened, and that's what he's speculating as well. So that's that, guys. If there's any questions about 8-bit, 10-bit, you know, don't listen to those guys. If you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the skills, you don't have the time, you don't have the hardware, you don't have the money, 10-bit is not going to do anything for you. Okay, you're not going to color grade. You don't have, if you color grade like I do, I color grade every day. But there are some times where I just want my videos coming out without having to muck around and piss around with it on my system. And when I'm on vacation, I don't have this with me. You know, I carry my tablet, right? And I want those videos to come out perfect or near perfect. I don't want to have to wait till I get home and then color grade. And that's literally hours and hours and hours of work. You know, I shoot when I go on vacation, like I'm going on a dive trip, I'll come back with probably about 3,000 to 4,000 photos, including videos. That's how much I take. And a lot of it's underwater video, which you have to do post-production with the cameras that I have. This one, I'm hoping I won't have to do a lot of post-production. We'll see. From what I've seen already, I don't think I'm gonna have to. Anyways, guys, peace out. Enjoy your day off. Happy New Year. And I hope this year brings you lots and lots of good stuff. Respect. Ciao.